Where fed and glory laid, we are always there. Edward Mukuka, 1960.
When will you fire off your first rocket, and where will you send it to?
I will fight from Lusaka and it will go straight to the moon.
Are you curious to find out how Africa's first journey to the moon was? Well, then put on your Afronet suit and let's travel together back in space and time and discover how Africa's first journey to the moon was. Welcome to Mtali, the Historian new episode. I am your host, Mtali. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Did you know that the race to the moon was not between two countries, rather three? Zambia, America, and Russia. Of course, Africa took part in the space race. However, this is a history that is little shared or little is known about it. So let's learn more about it. Meet Edward Mukuka, who's famously known for his ambition to beat America and Russia in the space race in the 1960s to send the first man to the moon. Edward was a prince of the Bemba tribe of Chinsali in the northern part of northern Rhodesia, currently known as Zambia. He was born in 1919 in Chinsali in the northern part of Zambia. Edward was a teacher, a freedom fighter, and a founder of the scientific program Zambia National Academy of Science, Space Research, and Philosophy. Edward served in the World War II. When he returned home from war, he appealed to open schools, but the British authorities rejected his appeal. Regardless, he went ahead and opened the school. The school was shut down by the British authorities because they feared that his teachings were to overthrow the British government. Edward later on moved around northern Rhodesia, which is currently Zambia, to teach science, math, and religion. During a lunch break with his fellow African teachers, a British education officer asked him and his fellow teachers if Africans were allowed to have a lunch break. He overturned the table in anger and shouted to the British education officer, "You are now hindering our human rights." He organized a protest and he was later fired. In 1956, he stormed in a British District Commissioner's office to protest against the digging up of African crops, relocating them to make up space for white settlers, as usual, arrested. He joined the resistance movement in 1957, and he was referred to as Jesus, as he wore a bloody red robe, an emblem for those that slain under the colonial rule. With the long dreads, and others called him John the Baptist, savior of the Africans. Edward's love for science started when he was fighting in the World War II, when a white man showed him how to operate a telescope. And his inspiration to go to the moon was from his first airplane flight, when he asked the pilot to stop the plane so he could walk on the clouds, but unfortunately, the pilot refused. When he was asked why the moon, he always responded, "Why not the moon? The moon is a solid substance. We are solid substance. Therefore, we should occupy the moon." In 1960, he founded the Zambia National Academy of Science, Space Research, and Philosophy. The motto was, "Where faith and glory laid, we are always there." The headquarters for this scientific program was 11 kilometers away from Lusaka. He had 12 volunteers, 11 boys and one girl. Among the 11 male volunteers, one of them were his son. He called his team of volunteers Afronauts, a term he coined himself, which was a shortcut for African astronauts. Martha Mwamba, who was a 17-year-old girl, was the only female volunteer that was selected to go to Mars with two cats and a missionary. Edward claimed that the two cats were technological accelerators which will be used to test if there's life on Mars. Once there, Martha will allow the cats out, and if they survive, Martha and the missionary will come out of the spaceship. Edward emphasized that the missionary should not force Christianity on the inhabitants. Edward trained Afronauts in so many various ways by rolling them down a rough hill in a 200-liter oil drum, as well as Afronauts would use a tight swing in order to feel weightless. Edward created a rocket named D. Kalu 1, named after David Kenneth Kaunda, the first Republican president of Zambia. The launch to the moon was supposed to take place on the 24th of October 1964 during Zambia's independence celebration at the stadium. Unfortunately, the committee that was involved in ensuring that the independence celebrations are in order did not allow Edward to launch his spaceship there. They thought it was a danger to him and to society, as well as to the people that would be present in the stadium. Unfortunately, they didn't even allow him to display his rocket inside the stadium, but he was allowed to be present for the independence celebration. However, he placed the rocket outside the stadium to show a symbol to the whites that Africa are educated and they know science. Edward's academy only lasted for 9 years, from 1960 to 1969. In 1965, America sent the first man to the moon. This killed the morale of the astronauts. Due to fame, it also got to the astronauts. They saw themselves as movie stars and demand for salaries. Hence, they quit to do no pay. Martha Mwamba, who was the only female astronaut, got pregnant and was taken away by the parents from the space program. Two of the best astronauts went on a drinking spin and never returned, while others joined tribal bands. One of the major reasons why the academy came to an end was lack of funding. Edward Mukuka only managed to raise $2,200. The Academy was just not a science project, but a tool to fight against the British authorities. Edward and his astronauts created bombs that were used to fight against the British government. After his moon landing was not successful, he later ran for mayor of Lusaka, but unfortunately was not successful. President Kenneth Kaunda appointed him as a special representative at the African Liberation Center, a safe house for freedom fighters from the neighboring countries. And beyond management of the Liberation Center, he taught freedom fighters military training. Later on, he received a law degree from the University of Zambia in 1983. In 1974, Edward was invited by NASA to witness the launching of Apollo, and later on, he was awarded the Russian Jubilee Medal, 40 years of victory in the Great Patriotic War, 1941 to 1945. In one of his interviews, Edward said, "I see the Zambia of the future as a space-age Zambia, more advanced than Russia or America." And on 4th March 1989, he passed on and he was buried with presidential honors. The road called Nkosolo Road, located in Lusaka, was named after Edward. In honoring him, there's a short film about him titled Nkosolo the Afronaut, 2014. There's a novel about him called The Odd Drift, 2019, and a photographic book, The Afronaut. While others saw him as a crazy man in history, he is seen as a man beyond courage, intelligence, and a dreamer. He was more than a freedom fighter. Edward Mukuka was a hero of the 60s, and this is his African story. Just like Martin Luther King had a dream that one day America will have a black president, and it had, so shall it be according to Edward Mukuka dream that Zambia will put the Zambian flag on the moon through its technology.
Forward. Backward. Jump. Forward.
Mr. Encloser, is this the site for your rocket launching program? And could you tell me where your rocket is?
Yes, this is the rocket launching site, and my rocket is just here.
And what is the name of your organization?
The name of my organization is National Academy of Science, Space Research and Astronomical Research.
And what position do you hold in the organization?
I am the Director General of Science, Space Research and Philosophy.
And when will you fire off your first rocket, and where will you send it to?
I will fight from Lusaka, and it will go straight to the moon. It depends upon how much money I got. If I got enough funds, it would be very soon, or in the middle of 1965, if I've got enough funds. But if not, well, it will have to make me delay longer.
And what do you think the reaction of America and Russia will be to Zambia's joining in the space race?
Or they'll be only surprised because they will find that we're just they will underestimate our resources plus the intelligence, but I'm sure we are catching them.
And so here at an abandoned farmhouse not far from Lusaka, we have a youthful group of budding astronauts playing at entering Zambia for the world's space race. However, to most Zambians, these people are just a bunch of crackpots. And from what I have seen today, I am inclined to agree.
The space age Zambia, more advanced than Russia or America. In fact, in my Academy of Scientists, our thinking is 6 or 7 years ahead of both powers. If I had had my way, Zambia would have been born with the blast of the Academy's rocket being launched into space. But the Independence Celebrations Committee said that would terrify the guest and possibly the whole population. I think they were worried about the dust and noise. It's a great pity. All is ready at our secret headquarters in a valley about 7 miles from Lusaka. The rocket could have been launched from Independence Stadium and Zambia would have conquered Mars only a few days after independence. Yes, that's where we plan to go. Mars.
Thank you for listening to Mtele the Historian podcast. I really hope you enjoyed this new episode. And don't forget to like and comment and tell us what you think about Edward Mukuka.